Denny's there.
All right. Before we get started, I was told they're going to have to read the chapter because I didn't think I read the chapter last time. This one is kind of long, so it's Acts. We're going to be in Acts 7 tonight, and I'm going to need 6 volunteers to read 10 verses apiece.
Okay.
I'll read.
So, whoever wants to start first, whichever one you want to start first.
I'll just start since I have it for
All
the way to 10.
Yeah, just read
Okay.
10 verses each so we can get through.
Stephen addresses the council. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I know. Okay. Then the high priest asked Stephen, "Are these accusations true?" This was Stephen's reply. "Brothers and fathers, listen to me. Our glorious God appeared to our ancestor Abraham in Mesopotamia. Yep. What is it called? Mesopotamia. Before he settled in Haran. God told him, 'Leave your native land and your relatives and come into the land that I will show you.' So Abraham left the land of the Chaldeans and lived in Haran until his father died. Then God brought him here to the land where you now live. But God gave him no inheritance here, not even 1 square foot of land. God did promise, however, that eventually the whole land would belong to Abraham and his descendants, even though he had no children yet. God also told him that his descendants would live in a foreign land, where they would be oppressed as slaves for 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, God said, and in the end they will come out and worship me here in this place. God also gave Abraham the covenant of circumcision at that time. So when Abraham became the father of Isaac, he circumcised him on the 8th day. And the practice was continued when Isaac became the father of Jacob, and when Jacob became the father of the 12 patriarchs of the Israelite nation. These patriarchs were jealous of their brother Joseph, and they sold him to be a slave in Egypt. But God was with him and rescued him from all his troubles. And God gave him favor before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. God also gave Joseph unusual wisdom, so that Pharaoh appointed him governor of all of Egypt and put him in charge of the palace.
Then a famine struck all Egypt and Canaan, bringing great suffering, and our ancestors could not find food. When Jacob heard that there was grain in Egypt, he sent our forefathers on their first visit. On their second visit, Joseph told his brothers who he was, and Pharaoh learned about Joseph's family. After this, Joseph sent for his father Jacob and his whole family, 75 in all. Then Jacob went down to Egypt, where he and our ancestors died. Their bodies were brought back to Shechem and placed in the tomb that Abraham had bought from the sons of Hamor at Shechem for a certain sum of money. As the time drew near for God to fulfill his promise to Abraham, the number of our people in Egypt had greatly increased. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. He dealt treacherously with our people and oppressed our ancestors by forcing them to throw out their newborn babies so that they would die. At that time Moses was born, and he was no ordinary child. For 3 months he was cared for by his family.
When he was placed outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him and brought him up as her own son. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action. When Moses was 40 years old, he decided to visit his fellow Israelites. He saw one of them being mistreated by an Egyptian, so he went to his defense and avenged him by killing the Egyptian. Moses thought that his own people would realize that God was using him to rescue them, but they did not. The next day, Moses came upon 2 Israelites who were fighting. He tried to reconcile them by saying, "Men, you are brothers. Why do you want to hurt each other?" But the man who was mistreating the other pushed Moses aside and said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Do you want to kill me as you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" When Moses heard this, he fled to Midian, where he settled as a foreigner and had 2 sons. And after 40 years had passed, an angel appeared to Moses in the flames of a burning bush in the desert near Mount Sinai.
When Moses saw it, he marveled at the sight, and he approached it to look more closely. There came the voice of the Lord, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Moses shook with fear and would not venture to look. But the Lord said to him, Take off the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt and have heard their groans. I have come down to rescue them. Come now, and I will send you to Egypt. This Moses, whom they disowned, saying, Who made you a ruler and a judge, is the one whom God sent to be both a ruler and a deliverer with the help of the angel who appeared to him in the thorn bush. This man led them out, performing wonders and signs in the land of Egypt and in the Red Sea and in the wilderness for 40 years. This is the Moses who said to the sons of Israel, God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brethren. This is the one who was in the congregation in the wilderness together with the angels, who was speaking to him on Mount Sinai, and who was with our fathers. And he received living oracles to pass on to you. Our fathers were unwilling to be obedient to him, but and in their hearts turned back to Egypt, saying to Aaron, Make for us gods who will go before us. For this Moses, who led us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what happened to him.
And they made a calf in those days, offered sacrifices to the idol, and rejoiced in the works of their own hands. Then God turned and gave them up to worship the host of heaven. And it is written in the book of prophets, Did you offer me slaughtered animals and sacrifices during 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? You also took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, images which you made to worship, and I will carry you away beyond Babylon. Our fathers had the tabernacle of witnesses in the wilderness, as he appointed, instructing Moses to make it according to the pattern that he had seen, which our fathers, having received it in turn, also brought with Joshua into the land possessed by the Gentiles, whom God drove out before the face of our fathers until the days of David, who found favor before God and asked to find a dwelling for the God of Jacob. But Solomon built him a house. However, the Most High does not dwell in temples made with hands, as the prophet says, Heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will you build for me, says the Lord? Or what is the place of my rest? Has my hand not made all these things?
Make it again? Okay. You stubborn people, you are heathen at heart and deaf to the truth. Must you forever resist the Holy Spirit? That's what your ancestors did, and so do you. Name one prophet your ancestors didn't persecute. They even killed the one who predicted the coming of the righteous one, the Messiah whom you betrayed and murdered. You deliberately disobeyed God's laws, even though you received it from the hands of angels. The Jewish leaders were infuriated by Stephen's accusation, and they shook their fists at him in rage. But Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, gazed steadily into heaven and saw the glory of God, and he saw Jesus standing in the place of honor at God's right hand. He told them, Look, I see the heavens opened, and the Son of Man standing in the place of honor at God's right hand. Then they put their hands over their ears and began shouting. They rushed at him and dragged him out of the city and began to stone him. His accusers took off their coats and laid them at the feet of a young man named Saul. As they stoned him, Stephen prayed, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. He fell to his knees, shouting, Lord, don't charge them with this sin. And with that, he died.
Tonight, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach than probably normal to this. We're all pretty familiar with the story of Moses, am I all right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not really going to. I do touch on it, but I'm not going to expand on it a little bit. Some of it I will expand on, but for the majority of the night, we're going to spend in the Old Testament, because a lot of this stuff is what he's talking about is Old Testament. So it's pretty much going to be an Old Testament lesson. We're going to start off in Genesis 12, 1 through 3. But as we see from the first part of this, Stephen is standing before the council. This same council is the same council that Christ stood before he was crucified. It was the council that crucified Christ. And there are three points that Stephen points out in here. And the first one is in Genesis 12:1-3. And it says, "Go forth." The first one is the promise to Abraham. It says, "Go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land which I will show you, and I will make you a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great. And so you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you I will curse. And in all your families of earth will be blessed." That was the promise that God made to Abraham. He told him to do these things, and these things will happen.
Jake, what was that again?
Genesis 12:1-3. And the other thing about tonight is probably really unconventional. There's not a whole lot of life application. It's kind of a whole lot of reading and just like pointing out things that he was talking about. There's not a whole lot of questions about certain things.
There might be.
I have a few. I have a few. And if y'all have questions, just ask, as always. And we see the second point that he makes is in Acts 7:37. "This is the same Moses who said to the sons of Israel, God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brethren." The other point that he makes talks about the deliverance under Moses in Exodus 14:13-18. If somebody would like to read those.
Exodus what?
Exodus 14:13-18. If somebody would like to read those.
Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground. I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they will go in after them. And I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his army, through his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen."
And after they pass through the Red Sea, they pass into the wilderness, into the desert, and they wander around the desert for 40 years. And while they were in the desert, God tells Moses to build a tabernacle in the wilderness. But the one thing that the Jews missed was that this tabernacle was not supposed to be permanent. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, and they thought that the tabernacle was God's actual home, when God doesn't live in a building, as we all know. It's just a building. It's a place where we worship, But they took it to heart and thought that it was God's real home, and that wasn't the case. And Israel keeps missing the point. And the blessings of God are not limited to the land of Israel and the temple. We are the temple, and God lives within us. And as we see, Israel keeps failing God, and God keeps doing great things for them, and they basically keep messing up. And God's people have been brought out of captivity. And it says in Acts 7:39-43, it says, "Our fathers are unwilling to be obedient to him, but rebuked him, and in their hearts turned back to Egypt, saying, Aaron, make for us gods who will go before us. For this Moses who led us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what happened to him. At this time they made a calf and brought a sacrifice to the idol. And we were rejoicing in the works in the hands. But God turned away and delivered them up to serve the host of heaven. As it is written in the book of prophets, it was not me that you offered the victims and the sacrifices for 40 years in the wilderness, was it, O house of Israel? You took along the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of Redon, the images which you were made to worship. I will remove you beyond Babylon. And God's pretty much saying, he's like, hey, knock it off, or you're gonna be exiled from Babylon and the Holy Land. And he also brings up the point about how, God has done these great, great things for the Israelites. He's had Moses bring them out of captivity for, they were in captivity for what, 400 years? Something like that? I don't remember exactly. They were in captivity. Now they're worshiping a golden calf after all the things that he's done for them. That's about as dumb as, all the things that God has done for Cornerstone. And then, we worship this. We worship a Ninja Turtle. A stuffed Ninja Turtle.
The toad you get passed around.
Yeah.
That's Michelangelo.
Yeah.
It's collectible.
I mean, imagine if all the things that God's done for us, and now we put this.
And because Ben's gone this weekend, we're like, we have no clue what to do, and so we start
worshiping this because our leader is gone.
we sit here and watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoons all night instead of
So I think when you said that there's no real application, sorry I messed up saying it for all of this, it's extremely real world application.
Yeah.
Because just as in the times of the Old Testament, God blessed his children, but at the same time when his children turned their back on God and worshiped false idols, whether it be golf or a golden calf or whatever it may be, his blessings are not bestowed upon us anymore. And it's still true to this day.
Yeah.
We constantly think that God is nothing but love, but you've got to love back, and you have to make him above and beyond the priority, or you don't receive God's full blessing. So very, very real world today application in all of that.
And I've said that
We're
many
no longer worshiping
times.
God, we are worshiping this tonight.
Michelangelo. Ben's gone, so.
So Ben's gone.
I've said that many times though.
You're more of a Donatello guy?
Exactly.
We have to take him out of the garage
Yep.
and condition him.
You were to be conditioned.
And another thing you read about how you said that God's not limited to Israel. It's, he's in us. We're in the temple. Well, today, God's not limited to this church, or that church, or us. I can walk down the street and talk to God.
I told somebody about this church today at work while serving them food.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Exactly. I talked to the girl sitting beside me when I was getting my nails done and invited her to come out here.
cool. I invited some Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, see, the cupcake girl and something sweet. We were there, and he was like, I didn't even think to tell her, and I gave her my number and everything. I was like, hey.
I think it's important though that because I've invited people, but it seems not forced, but almost like, why are you inviting me? I have no connection to you. So I've found that it's more important to like I see the same girl at Sonic bringing me my drink.
Create a relationship.
I ask her, how's your day, whatever, instead of just inviting her to church without really caring about her. Like, you have to show somebody that you care about them. You can't just say, hey, come to my church. They're going to be like, you're weird, and I'm going to throw this card away as soon as I get in the door. Like, you have to care.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't care and you don't show, it's not even a relationship. Yeah, it is a relationship, but you don't have to be close to them. You just have to show them that you
They
care.
have to feel
Like, how is your day going?
That you're genuine.
Have y'all been
Yeah.
busy today? Getting good tips? Well, here's your little extra. Just show them that you care.
There's a
And
lot
then one day they're gonna start asking you questions. Well, how's your day? Oh, it's been good. You go by there on a Friday on your way to church. Oh, we're heading to Bible study. If you don't work next Friday, you should come with us. We'll come by here and pick you up.
Let me tell you what God did for me today.
Right. A lot of unchurched people look at that as when you just approach someone and say, hey, how's it going? Here's a card. Come to our service.
They think
They think you're just trying to fill a seat.
just like
Right.
It looks better
I
for
mean,
you
why?
to bring
Why
5,
would they?
6 other
Yeah, why would
people.
they come? They seem like
Yeah.
just a number. Like,
Yeah.
I've done that and I pulled away and I'm like, this person thinks that I'm a weirdo because
Right.
Then you
But at the
start-
same time, still don't be hesitant, because God is going to use you if you feel that you should tell this person of your church
I've done both.
or
But I,
invite that
but I
person,
didn't. It was
Yeah.
more of like,
Just
it was
saying,
just
like,
a
oh, yeah,
spur of the moment
this is-
thing. But it was a lesson because as soon as I pulled away, I'm like, okay, I don't really care for that feeling that I just felt when I pulled away. Like, why did I do that?
Mhm.
So I was kind of like, so what do I need to do different next time? And it was kind of like that, like, just go back to the same place every time. You know, every time I drive through LaPorte on the way here, stop at Sonic and, you know, whatever.
Mhm.
But I think it's more important that you just show you care because people are gonna start asking. Everybody's hurt in some way or another, and everybody wants to tell somebody about it.
Mhm.
Everybody does. And so you build a relationship, and then they tell you about it, and then they know you care.
Basically, they're not going to pour their heart out to somebody who
Right.
doesn't already show that they care.
Right. Right.
I mean, you're just a rock. They're not going to go over there and just go, "This is what's happening to me," and think that rock's going to do anything for them.
Right. Right. You have to show that there's
You'd be
something
surprised.
that
It
you
doesn't
have.
It doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get them to where they're at that point.
Some
And
people
I see
don't.
that all the time in the industry that I'm in.
It's sad that the world doesn't. They don't get any of that from the world
Mhm.
unless it's the negative.
Yeah.
Because they don't get the nurturing. They get the "I want to pull you in," stuff from them. And they have to know we're different than the world before they'll trust us.
Yeah.
Because the world has the same ploys that Christians do.
Mhm.
Satan knows exactly how God works. He's been there, done that.
Yeah.
So he imitates it. So we have to show them we're different than the world before they trust us. And it takes time to trust, doesn't it?
Mhm.
So once you build trust, then they'll start opening up. But very seldom, and I'm not saying God doesn't work this way, God works this way. He works every way He wants to work.
Right.
But very seldom you just go out on a dry run and say, "Come to church Sunday,
Right.
sit with me," and they're going to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I've got from it too.
I had lunch with a guy I worked with for over a year and invited him to come and repeatedly invited him to come. And have reached out to him since to invite him to come. And he lives right over here over by, what's the church with the big cross over on 45?
Sagemont,
Yeah, so he lives right there, so it's not like it's far.
no.
It's not like he's lives in Canaan.
Make it a little bit
Yeah.
heavier there for you.
So,
Yeah. Sometimes it's just not going to happen.
yeah,
But you've planted the seed, and that's what God intends us to do.
right.
Is to just put ourselves out there and give them the opportunity. And someone down the road, be able to bring them in a little further and a little further, hopefully.
And every person that I've invited to this place so far has said they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like 6-0. I'm just like, what? This is
And you
not-
might end up with 10,000 no's and 2
Well, you see me, I just bring
yeses.
kids.
And those 2 yeses are outweighing that 10,000 no's just because of the effect that you made on those lives.
I'm definitely
Not that you made, but
I'm
that you
definitely not
helped to
going to
make.
stop asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
know.
always keep asking. And,
That day that cop in Baytown got shot,
uh-huh.
I was working and I went to this cop's house, and I could tell that he was down and everything, and he was having to get ready, because he was getting called in. He was waiting for me to get down to his house, and
He was an officer also.
yeah, and I was talking to him and his wife, and they were like, "Oh, just really down, blah blah." And she goes, "Well, just pray for him." And I said, "Well, okay, well, let's pray." And they're like, "Wait, what?"
Right now?
And I said, "No, yeah, let's pray right now." And they're like, "Oh." So we took hands and I prayed for him real quick and opened my eyes, and this, bigger than him, burly guy, cop who's just pouring down crying. And he's like, "No one's ever done that before. Everyone says, I'll pray for you, I'll pray for you." But no, he never
Like
said
Sid
it.
says, you might say, "Hey, I'll pray for you later." Well, then life goes on, you forget,
Mhm.
and then it's like, do it in the
Right
moment.
there, right there.
I just don't think that we should tell people that we're going to pray for them. In reality, we don't.
Right.
Because we're going to, unless you write it down. I know some people that they write it down. But, I mean, I'm guilty of that. So I've told someone, say, I'm going to pray for you. And I go home and forget.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then I feel like a couple days later, I'm like,
I've got to the point where I force myself to stop and do it.
Yeah.
You go look on Facebook and you're like, well, they're better, but I didn't pray.
Yeah.
And if you really want a testament to the way Christ walk this earth. What Cecil did right there is perfect. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're in the grocery store,
Right.
at the table, and it's your waiter,
It doesn't matter
wherever
who
you are. Do not be ashamed
who
of
you
your
are, what
faith.
you've done.
Stop. Pray with that person. Even if they don't want to pray with you, just stop. Take the minute. Pray.
That's how I
Right
felt
there.
whenever I was,
And that,
the kind of like she said, sometimes you have to form some kind of friendship or relationship with her, but sometimes it just comes to you like, I really need to tell this person about Cornerstone. Whenever we got cupcakes like 2 weeks ago at Something Sweet, we were checking out and I saw they had a Bible verse written on the chalkboard, and I read it and I looked at her and she was smiling at me, and I was like, well, I guess it's because I was reading that. I don't know. So then I asked her, you know, do you belong to a church? Are you interested in, you know, going to this? I told her earlier, like whenever we started out with like 8 or 9 people, and then sometimes we have like 20, 30 people. And then some people are like, I don't know, I haven't been to like church and it's this and that. I was like, well, it's because people think it's a building or a place or something you do on Sundays. I said, we actually meet up Fridays at 6 right now. So
who pictures
we just
this
get together.
when they think of a church?
Yeah, I was like, we just get together and we do life and we talk about stuff and we eat and we sing and we have a good time.
It is church.
Mm-hmm.
That's what church is supposed to be about. And then they're like,
Well,
oh,
when Jesus
okay.
started the church, they
Yeah,
went in
I'm
a big
interested.
building and
Or
a
they kind of
band
look at
and
me like,
screens
oh,
and
Chilling upstairs, lounging on cushions,
yeah.
Or outside.
eating hummus and pita.
I was like, I just felt like I needed to just say it then. So I said, but sometimes you do feel like I'm not just gonna.
As we see, you know, God keeps His promises always, and Israel continues to fail Him, even though He has kept His promises. You know, He's kept His promise to Abraham. He's kept His promises to Moses. You know, He led the people out of Egypt. Kept His promises.
I think another way to look at that is even though they kept failing Him, kept disobeying Him, He kept His promise. It's the same exact
He
words,
always
but
kept His promises.
well,
no matter what.
at LifeBridge, I still teach in Kid Life, and one of our running themes is the whole last section was God keeps His promises because He is faithful even when we're not.
Right.
That's right.
In the past, Israel has always had an opposition to God's plan. As we see, Stephen is, you know, he's before this council, and he's just letting him have it. And he basically starts to call out the council, and they're just not having it. They're like, no, this is all wrong. You're telling us that everything that that's happened is not so. So we see in these verses 51 and 52, it said, "You men are stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, and you are always resisting the Holy Spirit. You are doing just as your fathers did. Which one of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? They killed those who had previously announced the coming of the righteous one, whose betrayers, murderers you have now become. You have received the law as ordained by angels, and yet you did not keep it." Israel still continues to fail God. Can I have someone read Acts 7:55 through 60?
But Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, looked up to heaven and saw the glory of God, and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. "Look," he said, "I see heaven open, and the Son of Man standing at the right hand of God." As they covered their ears and yelling at the top of their voices, they all rushed at him, dragged him out of the city, and began to stone him. Meanwhile, the witnesses laid their coats at the feet of a young man named Saul. While they were stoning him, Stephen prayed, "Lord Jesus, receive my spirit." Then he fell on his knees and cried out, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." When he had said this, he fell asleep.
When it says that they laid their robes at the feet of Saul, this meant that Saul was going to watch their clothes and make sure no one would take their clothes or do anything for them. Saul is a man that we're going to become very, very, very familiar with throughout, Acts and throughout the rest of the Bible.
So why did they put their clothes at his feet?
They put their clothes at Saul's feet, so Saul would stand next to their clothes and make sure no one disturbed their clothes while they basically put this man to death.
Saying, hold my jacket while
Witnesses
Yeah.
laid their
don't
coats
get my
at the
outer
feet of
clothing
Saul.
dirty, and nobody
But
goes
why
through my
did they-
pockets.
take them off.
Yeah.
Because they were going to go
They-
outside
They were going to go
stone
outside stone.
Stephen.
So their cloaks or whatever they were wearing didn't get in the way.
Right.
So they could throw stones at
That's
They're
pure
about to go
evil,
medieval.
man.
Yeah.
So it was
That's
getting
more
dirty or
evil than
getting
evil.
muddy or
Yeah.
anything
I
else.
don't want to be hindered.
Yeah, they don't want to get blood on their nice clothes. So hey,
We're doing full
hold
swing,
my
you know.
hold my
Can you
dad
imagine
so I
being
get
that
full swing.
Horrible.
And Stephen,
That blind to the truth, man.
yeah, and we see Stephen say, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them."
Almost identical to what Christ said on the
Yeah.
cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mimicked
There you go.
his
Yeah.
dad.
He said
Did you
it
do
when
that?
No.
There's no way.
He said it when he was on the cross.
Yeah.
Do not hold this against them. They do not know what
They
they're
know
doing.
not what to do.
And who is Stephen?
He was one of the
He was
ones
one
they
of
chose.
The one of the
No,
seven?
go ahead, go ahead.
The martyr.
Yeah. He was one of the ones they chose to fulfill
Deacon.
the.
Yeah.
Deacon role.
the deaconship, right?
He was one of the
The
seven.
seven men chosen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And it says, according to the scriptures, Stephen was the first Christian martyr.
Okay.
He was also the first deacon, wasn't he?
And then
Yes.
let's see.
The phrase, we see the phrase "Son of Man" in Acts 7:56. The phrase "Son of Man," this is the last time it is used in the New Testament, and it is the only time in the Gospel and in Acts that it is not spoken by Christ.
Wow.
I don't have anything else. If they'll have any questions or
I just wonder on that last piece of information if that is substantial in a way to set Stephen apart as the person to last utter that, or the first person to utter that other than Christ, and for it to be the last time it's ever uttered in the rest of the New Testament. Also, the fact that he did say almost identical words to what Christ said before he was put to death on the cross. Maybe as almost an example to that he is not Christ. Stephen is obviously not the Messiah, but he is
It
he's
says
walking
he is,
so close
he
to
is,
God.
it says, it describes
So-
him in parentheses, a man full of faith in the Holy Spirit.
He's also not an apostle. He's also not, in the Jewish side, he's not a rabbi, he's a